Welcome to En Vivo from the San Antonio Express News. I am Mike Sutter, the restaurant critic for the Express News. We're joined here today by my colleague, Paul Stephen.
Howdy, y'all. I'm
food writer
here.
And today our special guests coming straight off their one-star Michelin award are Michelin chefs Alex Cabrera and Rico Torres.
Hey. Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah. I just didn't want to get too far ahead of myself there, right?
Yeah.
Don't want to talk too fast.
Good pace.
Yeah.
Well, I have to imagine that it's been kind of a crazy week since Monday, last Monday, when we were all in Houston at the same time. And when they were announcing the very first Michelin guide for Texas.
Yeah.
They arrived here for the first time ever. They've been in Paris since 1900, then came to the United States, and they've got guides in Los Angeles and New York and a couple of the other states in between. But this was the first time they came to Texas. And when it came time to announce Michelin stars, we had our own San Antonio's Michelin for a one-star Michelin award. Talk to me about how that felt in the moment.
Go for it, chef.
It was crazy. I don't think I've even really fully processed it yet. But
yeah, that's true. We just jumped into work right after that.
Yeah.
It was wild. So I put up a video last week kind of trying to explain that feeling. It's me and my wife hugging for like a minute. Well, half the gang is already almost on stage and we haven't even left our seats yet, And so it was that feeling of just this intensity of, it's been such a long road, not just with Michelin, but even, my decade before that, learning how to cook, but also, it just the amount of work and the amount of recognition that went to the people that got us here, Chef Alex and the rest of the team, Haley and Lauren and everybody. I don't want to name everybody just yet, but that feeling was very, it's inspiring to keep pushing forward. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It's not even like, hey, we were gunning for a Michelin star or two. It's every night we go in and we do Michelin style services for everybody and have been for years. Every night we practice the same thing. The only changes are to get better from the night before.
Yeah.
Last night doesn't matter anymore because it was last night and it only has to be again. We have to do it again tonight. And that feeling has never changed. So that pressure of having the star now isn't as bad as it was before, when things were a little bit slower and then the hot summers and restaurants were suffering left and right. This is pretty insane.
Yeah.
This year.
Well, we're pretty excited about that topic, so we launched right into that. But for people who are not familiar, the restaurant's name is Mixtli. Am I getting that right, Paul?
You have the spelling correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we want to get into. I like the way you pronounce it. So you tell me.
Well, I've pronounced it. That's on your website. MEESH-LEE Michelin.
Yeah.
The T there in the spelling just kind of naturally rolls off the tongue when you read it out that way. What is the origin of the word? And what are some of
the origin of the word is Nahuatl. Nahuatl is the language spoken throughout the Aztec Empire, and it means cloud. So in the way the clouds travel, the menus travel. That's the idea behind the restaurant. State to state, region to region, sometimes back in time. Using the restaurant as a time machine has always been a big deal for us. So even now, our menu is focusing on La Conquista, so the conquest of Mexico, and we go all the way back to 1519 to follow the Spanish and watch them go through the country, and then to the consequent fall of the Aztec Empire.
Yeah, and that's the nature of the menus at Michelin. There, it's 8 to 10 courses, and each course is served by the chef who made it in the moment, and each one has a story behind it. That's been my experience since you started in a boxcar in Almost Park in 2013. I want to remind the audience that as we're going along, please submit questions for the chefs, and you could do that by going down to your Q&A button and submit your questions there. Don't go to chat to do that. It works better to do Q&A, and then we'll look at those questions. We'll pass them along to the chefs as we go along.
Yeah.
It's a different way to experience Mexican food. A lot of us have grown up eating one style of Mexican food, or maybe a couple of styles, and we break it down roughly into what? Tex-Mex, interior Mexican.
And those are the words
Norteño.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't think a lot of us ever thought about the food of Mexico being as complex as it actually is, and all of the history and the elements that go into it. So tell us a little bit about the way the menu and the service are structured.
Del chef.
Well, every 3 months we focus on a different time, region, history, pretty much whatever we feel like is the best new menu. But we work very closely with UTSA and we do a lot of research. They have a special collections library, so we work very closely with the librarians. And
I know you've been an enthusiast of that collection since it started. Is that
well, I sit on the board. I'm chef ambassador, but also Chef Alex makes sure that the gang gets there for every
menu.
Yeah, and they spend a lot of time there as well.
How do you keep that research energy fresh?
Just curiosity, just straight curiosity and passion. I mean, any chance that I would come across something that's interesting, I will slow down to try to read it or figure it out. Sometimes we're in our social medias and kind of doom scrolling, as they call it, and you end up looking at dumb things. But then, so what I've tried to do is like limit all of those as much as possible, block it, unfollow, whatever it has to be, so that I can stay focused on art and music and history and keep my brain working in that direction. But it's just so fascinating. I mean, let's pick any subject from Mexican cuisine and history, and we can start unraveling and seeing how it takes us all around the world. I mean, we started talking about Tex-Mex, and Tex-Mex is super interesting. It's one of the most important pillars of gastronomy for both Mexico and the United States. Probably one of the first true culinary, probably one of the first true gastronomies in the U.S. as well. So here it has a home here in San Antonio that dates back to the 1800s, has stories about how the laws changed everything and kicked the chili queens essentially out of the plaza, instituted sanitary laws. We have places like Sanitary Tortilla that's named after that, because the whole point, the whole mission was to show them that we're sanitary, we're Mexican, but we're clean, which is sad to say, but it's how it had to be, early in the 19th century. And then it goes into this like church basement type of menu in the mid 50s, when it gets really dumbed down and turned into food that is just cheaper, and it essentially was selling cheap Mexican food back to Mexicans, or reestablishing it for American palates. And then you would take things like gravies and, like a roast beef, and change it up with some Mexican ingredients, add maybe a little chile guajillo, which is milder than other chiles, and then have those, and then you start kind of growing into what we see as Tex-Mex for most of the last century. But now there's a change. There's a beautiful change. It just like Food Network redesigned the grocery store, Tex-Mex is changing as well. And you have people that are living in Texas that know what true Mexican food should taste like, or have experienced it or have seen it on TV. They know about nixtamal tortillas. They know about proper chiles and moles and so on and so on. It's not just the chocolate sauce anymore. It's like hundreds and hundreds of varieties of moles and histories behind each one of them and the ingredients. And so there's like this renaissance of bringing Tex-Mex, or Texas Mexican, as Alan Medrano likes to call it. And he's absolutely right. But bringing it back to the forefront and putting some respect on it as well.
I love that we're having these conversations about what constitutes Mexican food, what is Tex-Mex, what is Texas Mexican. I love that you mentioned Don, who I think is energizing that conversation all over. You and I had a conversation about that sitting at Cascabel, a Mexican restaurant in Southtown that kind of is its own sort of unexpected to a suburban white kid's palate like mine, the kind of food that they do. And you and I were talking about this state of Mexican food in San Antonio. And I remember them bringing a bowl of caldo of beef stew, and it had this big shank bone in it.
Yeah, caldo de res.
And I remember watching you take your knife, dig the marrow out of that and spread that marrow on a taco. Yeah. I loved the evolution of that. Just watching you do it was an education for me, much like every time I go to Michelin is for that.
But specifically, that wasn't something modern, right? That's
no,
tradition.
My mom showed me how to do that, because that was one of her dishes, to make caldo de res, which is it's a beef stew, and you have the bone marrow, but it's in shanks, so it's cut crosswise. And she would show to her, that was her favorite part of the soup. And that was long before I even knew I wanted to even be in the kitchen. I just knew that she was fascinated by the bone marrow. And then, of course, it's like a super popular thing in any restaurant now. But yeah, just on a tortilla, you take out the bone marrow, you spread it on there, a little lime, salt, maybe some salsa if you have it, and that's it.
Oh, I love that.
That's it.
I wanted to ask, because we got a reader question about the name of the restaurant, and we talked about that. Michelin, right?
Mixtli.
Well, it's spelled Mixtli, and they were wondering what is the funniest pronunciation of that name that you've heard.
Yeah, Mixtli.
We had a person working with us that could not get it right, and he kept calling it Micheli's. So I thought that was funny. Mixtli, Mixtli. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce this. Can you pronounce it? Like, how do you say it? At least there's that, right? But yeah, I think Mixtli were the add extra letters or half pronounced, half spelled it out.
Well,
I think it was funny actually.
Till I've heard that.
Yeah, I was talking to someone and I was like, "Oh yeah, Michelin," and they're like, "It's actually Mixtli." I was like, "Oh
being
no,
corrected
it's,
about
it's,
yeah,
it's actually Michelin." But
Yeah,
they corrected you.
yeah.
No, you've got to love that.
Yeah.
Well,
and pleasantly close to me.
and it's not even just the pronunciation. I think about the time that you were in the boxcar, and it is a converted railroad car, very tastefully decorated inside. There was a big communal table, 12 people sat at that table. You buy tickets in advance, just like you do now.
Yeah.
So you are buying a seat at the table. It's not just, hey, I'll show up, maybe I won't. Yes, you will, because you're going to pay for it in advance. You're going to be there with 12 people the way it was at the boxcar. Now it's more staggered times and more conventional restaurant seating, but it's still
Same model.
Still a ticket, and it's still multi-course. But the thing about the boxcar too is I love the fact that the entire kitchen was right there in the boxcar with you. You could almost reach over and kind of help plate things yourself.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately, the bathroom was as well.
yeah. No, it wasn't right out there in the dining room, but the dish pit was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I was talking to somebody who spent some time working as a dishwasher. Well, everybody did everything as I understand it.
Yeah.
But a former employee of yours who said that the biggest instruction was do not make a sound while you're washing the dishes. Yeah. And if you've ever washed dishes, you know how difficult that can be. What other kinds of, what kind of challenges came with having that kind of beginning? And Chef Alex, you were in the boxcar for a time as well.
Yeah, I started back in 2017. So I worked at the train car for like 4 or 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Was this your first restaurant jobs?
No, I worked at Il Sogno that closed down in the Pearl for a couple of years. And then I worked as a hostess back in Guatemala as well. So.
Okay, a restaurant hostess?
Yeah.
Okay. What about you?
I had a catering company for 10 years before Michelin. And then before that, several restaurant jobs and got fired from all of them. That's how I knew that I was meant to be a business owner and not an employee.
Not an employee. So we haven't talked a lot about Diego Galicia. He couldn't be here with us today, but he was the founding chef with you, and still the co-owner and partner, and the person right there on the front lines at all times.
Yeah. You all. It was really unique. When I first came to town, Food and Wine had just named you best chefs. And I'd never seen that done before where it was a tag team. How important is that sort of creative tension and back and forth that you two have?
Well, it's a yin and yang type of situation. Diego likes to move fast, and then I like to move slow. And so it's kind of push and pull, and then some, but always it's not between what do we want for each other, is what does the baby need, the baby being Michelin. And so that's always the determining factor of whatever we're going to do. But yeah, it's always been fun to go back and forth. I'm really good at building flavors. Diego's really good at presentations, and that kind of helped put our things together.
Speaking of babies, your baby's about to become a bratty preteen now. You're 11 years old.
Yeah. So's my real baby. He's 12. What's up, Kingston? Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Have any sort of nostalgia and longing for those early days back in the boxcar? You all are happy to move back?
Yes and no. So first of all, we are in a city that sees about 3 weeks of winter and crazy 100-degree weather in the summer, and it was a metal box. And it was positioned in a way that it caught all the sun all day.
Yeah.
You know, like a painting that's looking at you no matter where you're standing. That thing was absorbing heat. And so getting it cooled down was always a challenge. And then getting it warmed up was another challenge.
Yeah,
the pipes not freeze.
I think the MVP was the AC there.
Oh yeah, that thing got
Working
babied
all the
so
time.
much.
And to talk a little bit about how compact this experience was, you got a block at the beginning of the night, and the block had your knife and your fork and your spoon and little notches for them. And rather than them swapping out your silverware between every course, it was kind of your job as the customer to put your silverware back in its little slots and make sure that you had it there for the next course. Because that was the nature of the beast. I love the sort of let's put on a play production aspect of that every week.
Yeah. And now the tables have a little drawer with all your utensils and they get switched out all the time. I didn't like having to do that, but there's some stuff that we were limited in a lot of ways in the train car between service or what we could actually offer. Like we couldn't have a grill in there. You know, now I have my green egg on the line. So that was really cool. But I would not have that. I would not have had that in there.
And you just mentioned service, and something else extraordinary happened at the Michelin ceremony. In addition to handing out what they call Bib Gourmand awards, that are great food at a great value. So you're going to a city and finding those smaller places that have really interesting food, and you're not paying an arm and a leg. And then restaurants that are recommended by the Michelin Guide, which is available online. You can just go and put the word Texas in there, and it'll show you everybody who was awarded those 3 levels, including the 1 stars. I think we had 15 restaurants in Texas got 1 star.
Yes. Most of them going to Austin.
Michelin was the only one in San Antonio. There were a handful in Austin and in Houston, and then I think 1 in Dallas.
Yeah, 1 in Dallas.
Yeah. What I also wanted to mention is they give out a couple of special awards, and 2 of your team members won special Michelin awards for outstanding service. I want you to talk about that a little bit and the role that those 2 people play in the restaurant.
Yeah. I honestly didn't expect that was actually a thing. You know, I didn't know they had a service award, but Haley and Lauren deserve it all.
So we're talking about Haley Pruitt and
Lauren Beckman.
And Haley is the sommelier.
Yes.
And then Lauren Beckman is the bar director. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. They give their heart and soul to all our guests. If you walk into the bar, and you can walk into the bar, you don't need a reservation for that. Go see Lauren Beckman, and she will treat you the best that you've ever had us in a bar, you know.
Yeah. And these 2 leaders put this program into play, but I mean, it's the whole team. You have Eve, you have Jasmine, you have Juan, you have Mr. Ryan behind the bar as well. Everybody's there to serve. You know, we're in this business. I think deep down, all of us have this humility that's ingrained in us. And that's why we love, and servitude, that's why we love the business so much. Because there's a lot of days when you're just exhausted or grumpy, you didn't get enough sleep, whatever. But then all of a sudden the first guest walks in and you're like, I'm not going to be able to make it today. But when they walk in, you like, this energy changes and you're like, I'm here to do something really special. And then you do that. I mean, there's been so many times when I'm walking away from a table with dirty, you know, that I just picked up some dishes and I have like a ridiculous smile on my face. I'm like, why are you smiling so much? Because I guess I love what I do. You know, I love that people are loving what we're doing. It used to be just me. Then it used to be just me and Diego, and then just me, Diego, and Alex and Cassie. And then just kind of grew from there to this team of all these awesome individuals. I was there last night and I had a boring service because every time I tried to do something, it was already done. I just found myself walking around a lot.
Well, it's his own fault actually, because he always says, kick me out of my restaurant. Like
I do.
Yeah.
I do. That's your job. Kick me out. That means that you're doing such a good job that I'm in the way. And I was in the way last night. I also forgot that I had told him I was going to be out I had tickets to a concert and I completely forgot I was going to go. In my mind, I was just like, it's work all week.
A little bit scattered.
Yeah.
Well, I just got a question from one of our viewers that says, I'm looking to open a business and I needs a good food partner. What should I look for to make sure business moves smoothly? And I thought of you for that because you've had several other ventures that you have done, including there in the boxcar for a moment. There was it called Kumo? The multi-course taco experience.
Kumo happened because we were already had the keys to the new building, and so it was also in the middle of the pandemic, and there was a lot of changes during that time. But we had the keys to the new building, and we were starting construction over there. But we still had the lease in the train for another 8 months. So we had a concept that we had always wanted to try out, and we did Kumo. Kumo also means cloud in Japanese. The style was omakase. And it was a lot. It was a period of very intense creativity because as soon as we would run out of an ingredient, okay, cool. What are we going to do next? We have a box of beets. Let's smoke them. Let's do this. Let's do that. And so the menu would change sometimes twice a night.
Twice a night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we took our concept, we redecorated it. And it was really cool. And we even took that 12 top and broke it down into 6 tables and nailed them to the wall so nobody could ask to move tables together. Because it was, again, just like, some weeks you have to, there was a lot of protocols during that time and it would change week to week, but it was easier that way.
So one thing I'm hearing right off the bat is that a business partner has the gift of adaptability.
Oh, absolutely.
And you also had the Mezcaleria.
That was too early, but
the bar.
Yeah.
And then greenhouse coffee that you had there at McCullough and Hildebrand.
Correct.
And even today here at the Light Building where the Express News office is, we have a greenhouse
in the lobby.
Greenhouse in the lobby, just a small stand that is affiliated with the Michelin group and not affiliated with the Express News in that sense, but with the operators of the Light Building. They wanted a coffee partner in the building, and
sorry,
there you were
behind the security gate.
I
unfortunately, you have to badge in.
They told me that it's open to the public. If you, you'll have to get some of the security to open the door for you, but it is open to the public.
You have to have that look on your face like you desperately need caffeine.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of business model that you think about for a food partner. Certainly, that is coffee is food in my book.
Yeah.
But you just have to find somebody that can be adaptable and scale up or scale down as the needs call for.
Adaptability is huge, and your partner, preferably somebody that's actually been in the restaurant game, is huge. And I've always been a fan of the contract is really where you should start and put a lot of focus. And so those beginning operating agreements are very important. So
you can't just handshake that.
Right. Yeah. Although Diego and I did, but we got along in our own ways,
handshaking for the partnership in Michelin in the restaurant
early on. It's like, hey, we're going to start like this. We're going to do like this. And it was a lot of trust.
Well, you were so much older then, you're younger than that now, as Dylan would say. Yeah. And you've learned a lot in that time, I have to imagine.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, let's all four of us, let's dish a little bit about the idea of Michelin in Texas, about the guide coming here and how that changes the restaurant landscape, both for pressures and for recognition, because I kind of see it being bulls, horns on the same bull.
Yeah. So, Tom, what do you want to know?
What kind of pressure does that bring to your operation? You've got a star now. Stars can be taken away. You can be demoted.
And but you all are no strangers to attention, though. You've been on James Beard's radar for ages. Does Michelin feel different from the Beard attention?
No, not to me. Do you feel pressure?
The only pressure I feel is we have sold out nights every night now. So
talk about that. How is this
prep and stuff?
Yeah. How has this affected reservations?
Well, we're sold out.
Sold out for the rest of the year. Yeah,
there's a good wait list, which is wonderful. But I don't want that to dissuade anybody from trying to go to the restaurant. Get yourself on a wait list. Things change every night. Yeah. I had a cancellation today. Went straight to the wait list. And then there's still time in January and onward. Michelin's the type of situation where you want to book it in advance anyways and get your party together.
It's like going to a concert.
Right.
You know?
Right. And so that pressure's been there of just trying to keep everybody happy, all the new guests that are coming and all the repeat guests that are coming back as well, and trying to keep everybody satisfied with, now we have limitations of, do we have enough seating for tonight? Right. Stuff like that. But honestly, we've operated this way for so long at this level. We've always treated every guest as if they were a Michelin inspector, so to speak. And so that's always the same thing.
Can you tell when the real deal's in the room?
No, not really. I mean, we've had a lot of single diners, and that's kind of like, or we've had a lot of diners that are writing
things. Oh, yeah.
Writing down.
Speaking of that,
this guy comes with his cameras. Did you? Your guest always has to wait patiently. Yeah, like get off of the chair.
Do you have a sense of who the Michelin inspector might have been, or what group of people included the Michelin inspector when they came through?
No, and honestly, I don't care, because everybody's going to get the same service. You know, whether it's somebody brand new right off the street that's never, first time, or a celebrity, could be Ian Zierling from 90210, who actually tried to come to the restaurant very early on, but I didn't have any more seats, and that's where the idea came from. Right? Yeah, Steve.
So, speaking of that, I just had a viewer write in to say, what's the dress code like? And
casual.
Will non-fancy people feel comfortable? And I love how this viewer puts this. They say, I'm talking camp out at Brackenridge for Easter, puro ese, mi gente tu ten. I imagine you've had people come in dressed all kinds.
There might be a sock check, but other than that, no, I'm just kidding.
People come in like workout clothes too. Like,
no, it's so not necessarily a dress code, but most people prefer a dressy casual situation. Like,
wherever you feel comfortable.
But it also, sometimes during the summer that kind of goes down a bit because it's so hot.
Yeah,
and you have to be comfortable.
And it's a pretty comfortable space now. You don't have to worry about being basically a toaster oven sitting out on the kitchen counter of the sun.
Exactly. And then as far as feeling comfortable, if, we try to make everybody feel as comfortable as possible. It's at the end of the day, we're cooking dishes and recipes that come from a place of a lot of humility, very simple as well. And we try to honor that, these moles or these salsas or this preparation. Yes, it might look beautiful on the plate, and the service is everybody's got their jackets on and all that. But at the end of the day, this is stuff that my grandma was making as well. And I want to honor them, her and her ancestors, in the same way, in the same fashion, because it was always, these are foods that were created sometimes for the families, sometimes out of necessity. Sometimes it's, women waking up very early to do the nixtamal. It's a process, and it deserves a lot of, it deserves to be honored correctly.
Well, I think you came in and you answered the second part of that question without even being asked, because that same viewer wanted to know, what is somebody with an everyday palate, with a kind of a salt of the earth palate, going to be able to find to eat at Michelin?
Everything.
And I think it's more about preparation and presentation, but once it comes to the flavors and the aromas.
One of the things that was really beautiful about the boxcar is that level of intimacy and the amount of just education that you were just as much kitchen people as you were classroom people in that sort of experience. Are you able to keep that same sort of?
Oh yeah. Every table gets the same thing.
Every course gets a little spiel too, like a little history lesson to go with it. We dive deep and try to teach everyone a little something.
So you don't have to come to the restaurant with a 3-star.
No.
Honestly, I think Michelin restaurants get like a bad name, like being snooty and stuff, and we try to steer away from that. We want everyone to feel at home and comfortable, and especially with very familiar flavors as well. So
if you want to lick the plate, do it. I encourage it. I prefer it.
Before too. We always like seeing clean plates though.
Yeah. Feel comfortable. You spend a lot of money to eat here. Enjoy it in the way that makes you feel happy. And you're not going to see anything that's really going to throw you for a loop. I mean, these are all ingredients that in one way or another we're familiar with. What I love is when somebody comes in who says, "Oh, I never eat this. It's not my," and then they have it our way. And it's like, I love this. I had somebody that was like 33 and had never had a carrot before. So they were avoiding them for, I don't know why. Yeah. And then we had like this beautiful smoked carrot taco that tasted like brisket, and it's amazing. And they fell in love with carrots.
That begs another question, doesn't it?
What's that?
So much attention on barbecue from Michelin.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
I think we had three barbecue shops in Austin alone that earned 1 Michelin star.
Yeah.
And then another in Houston. What has happened with Michelin, and what has happened with barbecue that you think would make those two things possible at the same time?
Well, I don't think anything's happened to barbecue that hasn't. It's a hard business. It was time that light got shown on it. I love seeing our colleagues out there. Saul was out there from 2M. I love those guys. But it's a fickle thing. It's like the weather could be different every day, and you have to be able to adjust to that. And there's no real recipe. I have a recipe. I have Franklin's recipe for brisket. I've never made it right. And so it's this technique. It's that skill. It's that experience. It's that hands-on that you can only get from being there every day or sleeping next to the smoker, like Isaul did. He'll talk about
over at 2M with the mat that sits out in the smokehouse.
It's the quality of the beef. It's grass-fed. Sometimes that's expensive, and so your briskets might be expensive because it takes a lot to make it perfect every single day. That continuity of making the same thing over and over, I think is why these restaurants got that Michelin star, because it's very difficult from the get. Doing it the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When that first came out, there was obviously a lot of Texas people who were very proud of their barbecue places, but there was just as much chatter as to kind of, why are we seeing barbecue on the same sort of stage as these fine dining experiences? I mean, to you all, these are clearly like the discipline required. Is that on the same level?
Yeah. Yeah. Right, Jeff?
Yeah. I mean, waking up at, 2, 3 in the morning to get brisket going. That's
watching
dedication.
it.
Yeah. They put a lot of time and effort and hours into this. So yeah, they absolutely deserve it.
And then the service, because it's like a whole bunch of people coming in once you're open, and you have to give everybody the right service, and it's fast, but it's like you got to be on it.
I was a little bit surprised that Mexican food in Texas didn't have its same sort of coming out party that barbecue did.
Yeah.
You were recognized, and I believe there was one other Mexican oriented restaurant in the state that
Houston?
Tatemo.
Yeah.
Was that it?
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of have a similar approach to it that you do. Now, there were some more mom and pop kind of places and taquerias, and
including Garcia's.
Including our very own Garcia's Mexican food here in town that were recognized by Michelin. And by the way, I feel the same about the Michelin experience as I do about the Garcia's experience. When I did rate my top 25 Mexican restaurants in San Antonio, that's up on expressnews.com right now. I did something I've never done before, because I always felt like giving people a tie at number 1 was kind of a cop-out, just because you didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or you couldn't. I was completely decisive. I don't care about your feelings. I think Michelin and I think Garcia's are on the absolute same plane, just doing things very differently from different sides of the country's culinary equation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're all drawn from the same pantry, right?
Right. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's how do you feel when you leave? And that's huge.
Oh, I like
for any diner.
We have a viewer asking, are there alcohol pairings with the courses at Michelin, or do most customers just order alcohol on their own?
Yes and yes. Okay. So when you make your reservation, you're making a reservation and paying for the food, the dining experience. And then to that, if you want, you can add pairings, reserve standard wine pairings. You can add cocktail pairings, 0 proof cocktail pairings if you want to, or you can purchase any of those a la carte. You could buy a bottle for the table. You could buy a bottle of mezcal for the table if you want to, several bottles of wines to take home. coffee service for the end of service if you want to, tequila or agave tastings, and then we'll take you to the bar and get you set up with Ryan or Lauren, and they'll take you through this little experience of a tasting of agaves, which could be mezcales, tequilas, and something else. There's all types of options.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, go ahead.
We even have a flower bouquet add-on as well.
That's right.
Oh, you got to love that.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that a wine pairing experience with Haley Pruitt included one night a tomato liqueur from France.
That was
that was
amazing.
We tried 2 different sherries. One of them from Spain. I can't remember where the other was from, but both different enough to get a different experience with each one. And I love that Haley also recognizes the wines of Mexico and incorporates those into the same leagues as Napa Cabs and French Bordeaux.
Yeah.
When you all started back in the boxcar days, like, obviously your bar program was a very different creature from that was basically a BYOB or whatever people had so because of permitting. Just from a business standpoint, how important is it to have a well-developed bar program for a restaurant at any level?
It's everything. It really rounds out the entire experience. And it also shows a level of passion and skill from the individuals creating that program, from the bar, from the sommelier. All of that comes into play. A lot of times the food is almost third place by the time you get it, because the goal is to get you to fall in love before you even get your first course. And that's atmosphere, that's service, that's the experience, that's everything that's happening before you even get your first course.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's super cool because the bar program also changes with every menu. So, the bar team also does a lot of research, and they also tell stories through their drinks.
Yeah, they do. And I remember Haley saying, well, when I was at this vineyard in France 2 weeks ago, not when I was just starting out 15 years ago, it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And now she's talking about the,
well, that was actually Spain, but but Haley and I are going to France next year.
Oh, that's terrific.
With Modern Adventures. So we're going to Burgundy, and that's open to anybody that wants to come.
I love it.
Yeah.
So we had a viewer ask, and I'm sure you get asked this from time to time, if other restaurant owners or chefs have asked you for advice, and what do you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, people ask us for advice. I ask them for advice. Yeah. It's a community. It's a lot to navigate. Cooking food sometimes is just the easiest part of the job. Navigating the business and everything else that goes around it is a little more difficult all around.
Especially this past summer for San Antonio in restaurants, it was very difficult. So we reach out to a lot of friends and we start doing dinners together and have fun with it, but also help out both restaurants by promoting one-time dinners.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, the style of food you do is a very specific kind of experience. That's not everyday dining for most people. Where are you all eating when you're off the clock?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I'm eating bone marrow on tortillas. Well, I don't go out as much as I probably should, but as I've gotten older, I've limited to what I'm actually eating. So I think you guys were having hamburgers yesterday, and I was having a salad. So
we are both of salad age now. Yes.
This goes into one of the questions that said, "You make so many elegant dishes all day long. What do you want to eat at the end of a shift? Is Taco Bell your guilty pleasure?"
Not me. Diego, yes.
I'm actually a Cane's gal.
Kingston love Cane's.
I love Cane's.
Cane's.
Chicken tenders, right? For the win.
I might have that if he had some for dinner and there's any left over. There might be a note that says don't eat it, and then I just go tell it. So chicken tenders. My wife knows that I love white rice and her picadillo and some braised kale. Perfect. And I'll eat that all week. And it's like a turkey picadillo too. So I'll eat that all week, and I'm happy.
And your doctor approves.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave it up to you and Diego and your gods to sort out that you just outed him as a Taco Bell guy.
Yeah, well, he loves it. I mean, we all have our little guilty pleasures and stuff. Yeah.
I found a Taco Bell sauce packet in my wife's car. And she was. It created such an air of tension in the house for a week. That she had to claim that somebody else put it there.
I will vouch.
She's like, it was my boyfriend.
Yeah,
You know, okay.
No big deal. But so somebody else asked, when you're building the menu, was there a dish that you were very fond of that ultimately didn't make the cut?
Oh, yeah, that happens.
all the time. Yeah. Because it's the whole team comes up with menu ideas, right? And we just have to sit down and decide what make it onto the menu. And that's a lot. I think we should do like a B-side menu of just
Yeah. That'd be
recipes
fun.
that don't make it.
Hey, I like that. Do you ever do family meal at Michelin where the staff gets around and have a little something to eat before shift starts?
Once or twice a
Made
week.
burgers yesterday.
Yeah, what do you eat for family meal?
Pretty much whatever we want. We've done burgers, meatloaf.
You know, I think it depends on who's cooking.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Diego will make us pancakes and bacon and awesome burgers. But I might go in there and do a kale salad and a big bowl of fruit, right?
We have to have some balance.
But you make some awesome kale salads with the pepitas and the vinaigrette, and I miss those. And the roasted sweet potato.
I guess I'll have to make it.
Yeah.
So talking about all this, one of our viewers asked, do you have your 2025 menus planned yet, or have you been able to think that far ahead?
We are conceptualizing the next menu now.
Yeah.
After that, no. No, I don't have enough brainwidth yet. But we're always thinking about what's going to happen. There is a process to it. It's not just throwing darts on the wall. It's what season are we going into? What kind of produce and stuff is going to be available to us during those next 3 months? What have we done or not done so we don't overlap, or so is it time to repeat this? And what's a fun angle to address during this particular season? So going into like the colder months, into this season right now. In other years, we've done stuff like Puebla or focus on things that kind of revolve around winter festivals and events and kind of bring out those things. And then in the summer times, cooler dishes, might hit somewhere on the coast, Veracruz, Baja, ceviches, aguachiles, things like that. So all of that kind of comes into play.
So somebody was asking, and we haven't talked about this. It's kind of sometimes it's the elephant in the room when you're talking about Mexican food at a different level, like the experience you're going to have at Garcia's versus the experience you're going to have at Michelin. One of our viewers asked, tell us about the price range at Michelin. And that might include, can you have an a la carte experience? What are the tickets for the dining room 8 to 10 course experience right now?
Yeah, it's $150 for the 8-course tasting menu. We don't break it down as an a la carte, and hopefully by the time we come back from Thanksgiving break, we'll have a bar menu that'll be separate, and that'll be a la carte. There'll be smaller bites
available in the bar, which is separate from the dining room.
Right. Yeah, and we have a little bit more fun with that. We make tacos and
we got a little late on that, but we also got hit with sold out every night, and trying to catch up. But
I think about that, and I've had some really good multi-course experiences in San Antonio for around anywhere from $100 to $150. I don't think I've ever paid more in San Antonio for an experience like that, and I've had some terrific food. I think about having the same experience in San Francisco or having the same experience in Miami or New York. I think that's going to start at $100 more just at the base of it.
Yeah. Now, when I first came here, one of the things that I really noticed about a lot of folks here is that San Antonio, especially around Mexican food, is really price sensitive. If you raise a enchilada plate from $5.99 to $6.99, there will be a ton of pushback. How difficult was it when you all first started going into business to really sell the idea that Mexican food belongs at this price point, just like every other great cuisine in the world?
I mean, it was a slow start. It was a re-education of our customers. That sense that Mexican food has to be cheap is such a huge misconception. And that really kind of also, again, boils down to where Tex-Mex was in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And so that's where we're coming out of. And that's when I was talking about that renaissance of Tex-Mex in the last 20 years and moving forward is people understand that the quality costs money, and it costs us money to get good corn, to make the nixtamal, to make tortillas, to get the right beefs, to get the chiles that you're not going to find just at your regular grocery store. They're expensive on their own. The chile chilhualque grows in 20 hectares in all of the world, and just in Oaxaca. So it's already a very expensive chile, but we need it for certain things. And then the shipment is expensive. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Mexican food is not cheap. I mean, just like it's easy to make a beautiful pasta with a pomodoro sauce, but so the ingredients matter. Who's making it and how it's made matters. So there's a lot of steps to why. But yeah, Mexican food belongs on that level because the ingredients are very special in themselves as well. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that I wish I could get that I still can't get my hands on just because of it's difficult to export or find somebody to ship it or, stuff like that.
Well, I wanted to ask on behalf of one of our viewers too, what do you plan to eat for Thanksgiving? Is it going to be traditional or is it going to be something as adventurous as what you do at Michelin?
Oof, I haven't even come up with
Are you cooking
plans. Oh yeah, probably. I cook with my husband and my mother-in-law.
Chef Alex just got married a couple of weeks ago.
Congratulations.
And Chef Nico got married. So.
And our sous chef Nico.
Yeah.
He just got
married. For the longest time, I felt like I was the only real adult in there with a family and marriage. I'm about to hit 16 years as well with my wife.
All right.
My husband's also a chef, so we both cook at home. He cooks more at home than I do.
And that leads directly into the next question. Mm-hmm. What do you eat at home? What do you make for yourself and your families at home? You talked a little bit about what your wife Katrina makes for you.
Yeah.
What do you make?
I will make her anything that she's craving, and she has a lot of cravings. So most recently, she's really into whole fish, into red snappers. And so, yeah, we went within a direction that was a little more Thai last time, and we fried the fish really nicely, and then went in that direction. And then, yeah, so if she can get me to turn on the grill on a Sunday, and she knows that Sundays are like the day that I'm physically drained, but if she can get me to turn on the grill, I'll make anything that we can. They love my ribs. So,
and how about you, Chef?
It's a lot of Asian-inspired food at home as well.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, Josh loves cooking Asian food, so. But
that's more him than you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, if I cook at home, it's actually from my childhood, Guatemalan food.
Yay.
Well, now that you all have this much attention, how much grief do you get from your family about big fancy chef? And I think when it comes to them cooking,
they were already doing that.
Yeah,
right. I have to imagine that.
Yeah, I made some dinner, but I mean, I know you're a big fancy chef. I don't know if you're gonna like it. I'm like, oh wow, I love anything that anybody makes for me.
And we'll be happy.
Yeah, most of the time I'm just eating an avocado, so like just an avocado. So yeah, if you make me something, I'm very happy for it.
So I'm just noticing on the lapel of your jacket, you have a Michelin cloud. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. So did you have that especially made, or was that?
Chef Diego had it made for us about 6 months ago.
Those are pretty great because it made me have a question about how do you represent to people that you have been recognized by Michelin without being too gaudy about it. I mean, I would have hats made. I would wear T-shirts. I'd have it tattooed on my forehead.
Yeah. What do I
don't know.
I'm quiet about it.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do at the restaurant? Do you put? I saw
the stars out. We haven't put it up at the front door yet. We still want to take pictures with us and stuff with it. But all the awards are up on the walls. It is also special. I mean, I want to be quiet about it and not draw too much attention to it. But it also for the business, it's important for our customers to see some of the stuff that we've been through.
They don't give you a sticker that says, check us out on Yelp.
No. F Yelp.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
We talked about before we started the broadcast, we talked a little bit about the challenges of running a restaurant and trying to keep people happy in an era when it's impossible to make people happy when they have forums to express themselves everywhere. What was the one you were telling us about that they complained?
Oh, yeah. We've had a complaint. I mean, we've had some weird ones. Somebody got mad at our hamburger, but we've never sold a hamburger. I mean, we've made it for family meal recently, but this was a few years ago. And their hamburger was terrible and blah, blah, blah. Like, we have a tasting menu. You didn't come in here and eat a hamburger. So we've had some weird stuff, some weird complaints, but not too many. So knock on wood. We do try to address everything while you're still in the restaurant, if we can.
Oh, so you're actively reading these reviews as
No. We're reading faces, reading the guest, trying to make sure that we haven't missed a step or overstepped, and trying to correct anything that may have gone wrong in the moment, so that you leave cool.
Well, I've always felt like for the restaurant experience in general, people don't like confrontation, even if it's well-intentioned, and they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and they don't want to be that person in the restaurant who's complaining and sending things back. But at the same time, they're still aggrieved. So I've seen that as that's how they express that. They get some of their power back is they go online and say something about that rather than talking to the restaurant about it in the moment. What can you tell people that feel that way, how to approach that in a more comfortable way that doesn't create tension, but solves the problem for both parties?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want anyone leaving unhappy. We'd rather fix the problem right then and there. And we're very approachable. It's not like we're going to get mad or anything.
Yeah. I would like to, I guess you said take your power back, but honestly, we never took it away in the first place. So you've always had it, and speak up if you can. It happens. Yeah, it happens. And I know that sometimes in the moment you don't want to be that person that says this is not for me, and that's okay. But honestly, if we don't know about it, I can't do anything about it. And 99% of the time I can do something about it, and I'm very willing to. So would love to have that opportunity before the customer leaves to address it and try to correct it or change it if we need to.
And honestly, like if that mistake happens, then like how would we know to fix it? I mean, for that one person, but in the future as well for other people.
Yeah.
It makes us better too. So if you bring that up, like.
Yeah, that's the fine line of customer service, is just making sure that everybody's happy, and you don't have any control over what they say after they leave the restaurant. So you hope that you leave them with
right. What I would like for them to say is and Chef Diego talks about this all the time, is that conversation that the guests have in the car on the way back home. And ideally it's that they had a very memorable experience from start to finish. And so that's what we work towards, to make sure that your birthday was special, that your date night was special, that this one time that you brought your dad, who swears by Whataburger and swore he was never going to come into a fine dining establishment, left like with his mind just completely blown. And that's happened several times.
Yeah, that sounded personal.
Yeah, that's happened several times. And I love that type of customer. The ones that think that came in a little closed-minded, and we got them to switch their mind a little bit because there's so much cool stuff happening.
So we are coming to the end of our in vivo experience today, and I wanted to thank you very much for coming in, and also wanted to remind people that we have a taste newsletter that we put out every week that kind of summarizes everything that Paul, Stephen, and I have written during that week, and including this week Paul's history of fajitas.
Oh yeah, I got in trouble for that one.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
So I mean, you know this. You're as much of a research nerd as I am. When it comes to the food world, there is no first. There's the idea of being able to pin, and unless like you invented Dippin' Dots or something specific like that. But this was about fajitas and their origin and
the rancheros in South Texas.
Yeah, right. So I mean, you can trace it back to the 1930s or so. But in the restaurant game, everybody loves to be able to say we were first. So we've got several different competing places around the state that all claim that. I'm sure you're familiar with most of these places, but I keep getting emails since that story published from people insisting that their favorite place was the first place to do fajitas, even if they didn't open until the mid 80s.
Wasn't Michelin the first place in the state to do fajitas?
Oh yeah,
and burgers.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, this it's difficult to pinpoint that for sure, and it almost doesn't matter who was first. I'd be more like, who are the best three? Because there really can't even be a best one sometimes. There's so many people. And that idea, like you're talking about, it happens in movies too. I mean, you see a good movie comes out, but then there's like all these other ideas that kind of came out roughly around the same time. It's this mentality that all minds are connected in the ethereal, whatever. But, it happens. I saw a movie on the shelf recently. It was Transmorphers.
Well, that kind of reminds me of the conversation, the fajita conversation or the puffy taco conversation, where a couple of different places in San Antonio say that they did it first. And my response was always, well, who's doing it best now? Because that's when I'm having it. And they were part of that top 25 Mexican restaurant story that's on expressnews.com right now, along with your story on the history of fajitas in San Antonio and in Texas. And you'll also be able to read about our coverage of the Michelin Awards ceremony in Houston last week, and all of the other winners in San Antonio and the rest of Texas for Bib Gourmand Awards and for recommended status. I mean, it sort of feels like I don't know, not a brave new world, but certainly a new landscape for recognition, something to strive for. Yes.
Yeah. It's a big deal. I think it's going to change all across the board. I think everybody now feels like there's something really to fight for, and to get better for. So every kitchen is probably feeling this like sense of a little heat under them to cook better, to research more, to, move better, because there's an actual reason for it.
Any predictions for next year on what Michelin might see in Texas?
Of who might win something?
I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you to name names. I'm talking about trends like we saw barbecue this year. What do you think we might see next year? I'll go first. I'll say I hope that we see more salt of the earth kind of Mexican food recognized, along with the level that you're doing. Bring that into star consideration, because I think that's one of our signature cuisines in Texas.
Yeah, the Tex-Mex aspect has been kind of missed out, but also I would like to see other cities recognized as well. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful stuff happening in El Paso.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think about in Marathon, Texas.
Yeah.
Oh heck, and I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but definitely other cities in Texas that are worth recognition.
Exactly.
But
I don't know about trends, but I am very happy whenever I've got friends or family visiting from out of town. They always ask me, "Oh, do you have any Michelin star restaurants there?" And I always would have to, Michelin, but with the asterisk that Michelin isn't actually here.
Yeah.
Now it's over and done. Makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
And there are lots of great restaurants in town, so definitely visit them. Help everybody out. We lost too many good ones last year.
Yeah.
But hopefully those trends are changing, and support everybody. Support all of your local favorites. It's not just because we have a star coming from us. Support all the local favorites. I'm actually now craving some cascabel. Now, and I'm always craving con huevos. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that kind of works out.
Any questions from the fans? And is it at our time?
We did have somebody want to know more about the trip to France that you're taking next year. But
real quick, it's with Modern Adventures, so you can find it on their website. Haley Pruitt and myself will be visiting Burgundy for a week and exploring several vineyards and the history. I will actually be cooking while I'm there as well, and exploring it through the eyes of a Mexican chef and with my sommelier. And this will be my third trip with Modern Adventures, and they're always a lot of fun. It's always highly curated, and it's a good group of people that end up going to it. So if you can, it's definitely worth it.
Well, that's how we put our own culinary experiences in perspective, is to travel and see how it's actually done at some of the places that inspire where we go to eat here in San Antonio every day.
Yeah.
And we hope that you'll be inspired to go out and eat in San Antonio and beyond. And thank you so much for joining us on En Vivo today. And thank you so much, chefs Alex Cabrera and Chef Rico Torres from Michelin, our first one-star Michelin award winner here in San Antonio.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Yeah.